Hello and welcome back to the Energetic Shift podcast. I am in my big girl energy today. I am talking about turning my business from a solo vibes energy into a fully fledged company. So I've talked about this online already, and I'm going to bring it to the pod because I think that it's super important to talk about. I shared last week about my expansion, about my word for the year being expansion and what my plans are for expanding my business this year. And this is part and parcel of that, right? So I've been working on this since the start of Q3 of 2025. So I've been working on turning my solo business, my DH coaching, into a fully fledged company. And what I mean by that is, don't get me wrong, it's not just been me, myself, and I, as in like I do everything. There's been stages throughout my business, my it's just been me, and like my whole business has been run by me. I've done every single element of it, and I think that's super important as well. Just to note that. Side note, it's super important to know every angle, every area, every corner of your business if you can, because if there's ever any stage or any time where you're not able to have a team member or your team down for whatever reason, you can still run your business if need be. So I always think it's super important to know every corner of your business anyway. But I have been probably, if I admit it, probably again keeping myself small in this area too. And I don't even know why, really. I think maybe from an element of control freakness. I like to do things myself. I like to oversee things myself. However, I noticed this last year that it was really affecting my creative flow in my business. Even though I had space in my diary to be, I wasn't using that space well enough or intentionally enough to be able to create. And I think I'd probably got myself into a position where I was doing the things that I loved, wanted, enjoyed, and had fun doing, but wasn't really thinking about like the what's next necessarily, and putting myself in that era or putting myself in that energy. So I recognized this at the end of Q3 of 2025. So I decided to really start working on what that looks like for me to turn my business from being solo into, a fully fledged company, so that I had a full on support network. I've had team for a few years. I've had a content creator, I've had a copywriter, I've had a VA, and it's been great to have those people support me. It's been more than great to have those people support me, but there's still areas of my business that they could support me in more that I just haven't looked into because I've just done it myself, and I'm that used to just doing everything for myself because I know that. So this is also side note, once you do understand every corner of your business, please don't get too precious over those corners of your business. You do if you want expansion on this level, you will have to hand them over. You can't do everything yourself. And well, you could, but it will affect your creative flow. It will affect your zone of genius. It will affect you being, who and what you're supposed to be in your business, because you're doing all the things that you don't necessarily need to do. Even if you love them, you don't necessarily need to do all of those. So, like I said, I shared last week that my word of the year is expansion, and what this looks like. So, like I say, I've been working on this since Q3, really starting to put the provisions in place and do things to prepare in Q4 going into Q1 of this year. So I want to share with you what that looks like for me, like how I'm going to turn my business from solo energy into fully fledged company, so that you can get an outlook. And I know there's going to be so many of you listening to this that are probably in the same zone, same area of your life or business, where you're like, actually, I need expansion, but I need to take more creative lead, and I can't do that while I'm pissing about with funnels behind the scenes, or doing all of the other things myself. So there's a few things that I'm going to implement, I'm working on, and I'm putting in place already, so that this year can expand and I can still be in my energetic zone of genius and creative area and creative era. So the first thing that I'll be doing is I'll be expanding my energetics. Now, I talk about this a lot. I talked about it last week in how I'm going to work on preparing my energy for expansion. The same goes, like expanding the energetics that run through my business, meaning I'll be upgrading the internal engine. So not just adding on more tasks, more offers, more strategies. It's really working the energetics of the business, the flow of the business, the frequency of the business, what works within the business, rather than just piling on a load of new things. I'm really going to be working at navigating how this looks and how this feels, most importantly, inside of my business. So not just more tasks, more offers, and more strategies, more feeling, more energy, more how does this feel to execute this? How does this feel to implement that? How does this feel to bring in this offer? All of those things are going to be really, really worked on. It's about changing the frequency of my business so that it's operating from that I can hold more energy, more money, more success era. Does that make sense? So it's changing the frequency my business is operating from so that it can hold more, even more than it is already, without feeling heavy, without feeling frantic, without feeling misaligned. It's key that it's got to stay aligned for me. That's super, super important. The next thing I'll be doing is expanding my team, which I've already done. 2026 expansion requires me to be more me. So it means that I have to be me in my zone of genius and do the coaching and do the creativity and lead, be the creative lead in my business. But to do that, I 1000% am going to need more support in those areas. So what I've done is I have tripled my investment with my VA and her agency. I have hired a ads manager to support me with my paid advertising, which I've not done before. So that's new, and I'm going to continue to work with my content creator and my copywriter to be able to free up some jobs and space and be able to continue to expand my brand and my brand voice and my message without being stuck in it. I can be like the lead on this and stand back and be my frequency and my energy, and instruct those guys to execute the things that they are good at and that is their zone of genius. I'm also going to be developing departments within my business, which I've never done before, and it just makes so much sense to do this. So sectioning off into the sales department, the marketing department, the customer service and relations department, the creative department, the brand department, etc. You get the gist, and welcoming the most aligned people to be able to take care of each area for me and help me and support me in those areas again, so I can stay in my frequency, in my energy, in my zone and in my era, right? The next thing I'll be doing is making bigger investments within my business, because expansion requires you to invest more time, effort, energy and money. So when I talk about investments, I never just talk about it from a financial point of view. I always talk about it from an energetic, financial and time point of view. So making sure that I'm making bigger investments in all of those areas. This year, I'll be moving into bigger places, bigger rooms, and going wider with my growth strategy, more exposed than ever, which I talked about last week, which requires more support from the experts in those fields, and to be able to hold me and support me while I do this. Which also means more investments. The next thing I'll be doing is going deeper, and I talked about this last week as well, like going deeper with my identity work, always making sure that I am in tune with and connected with my higher identity, always making sure that I am working on the woman that I'm becoming, not the woman that I've outgrown, not the woman I've already been. This is the most important work I'll be doing all year. To be able to do more and hold more, I have to be able to be more myself first. So this work is probably what most people actually leave out. They go into strategizing, they go into hiring, they go into strategizing, they go into doing more, and actually the energetics piece, the identity piece, they're the most important, the identity more than anything, before the investments, before the actual practical stuff and the practical work that we do in our businesses. These people will make the investments and do the things that are external to them, but forget to do the identity, the energetics, the frequency work that allows them to hold that success when that investment pays off, to hold that success when their strategy is working. So all of that, what comes with a bigger audience, more clients, higher prices, bigger successes. Otherwise, it doesn't stick around for long. So you'll get that in. But if you can't hold it, if your identity is not at that level, you are going to see it swiftly exit your world. So if you are like me, claiming 2026 is going to be a big year for you, I want you to make sure that you don't forget the inner work. And if you need support in that area, I am here. Please come and DM me on Instagram. I have got my ERA mastermind running, which is for next level women, trailblazers, people that are ready for big and want to be able to hold more. This would be a perfect fit for you, but also I may have some one-to-one spaces open also if you want to come and work with me in a one-to-one capacity. You can just DM me on Instagram and I will get back to you with a little voice note generally. So I have loved sharing this plan with you today, and I will see you next week.